guy.
He talks to the guy,
like,
he brings the elders,
her.
and all the people who were at the gate. And the elders said, "We are the witnesses. May you prosper in Ephrathah. That place."
Hi friends, welcome back to Higher Deeper. Today we are talking about chapter 4, which we are calling Ruth the Redeemed. What a good one.
Yes. So basically, in some of your Bibles, it might even actually say at the top of chapter 4, Boaz redeems Ruth. So what happens is, in order to officially, in the proper way that it was done back in that day, to redeem her as his wife, first he was checking with the other kinsman who was more closely related to Naomi to see if this was an okay process. He calls elders to have a meeting about it, basically, so then there were witnesses. And along with an exchange of land, Ruth would then also be a part of that and become the Redeemer's wife. The kinsman Redeemer he had mentioned had at first accepted Boaz's offer of the land, and then when Boaz said, "In addition to the land, you will also redeem Naomi as your wife," he said, "Well, then never
Ruth
mind."
as your wife.
I'm sorry.
That's all
I'm
right.
confusing
It's okay.
everybody.
You'll also redeem Ruth as your wife.
Yeah. So when he mentions to the other kinsman Redeemer that Ruth would be his wife, in addition to the exchange of land, the other kinsman Redeemer says, "Never mind."
Right, he says, "I cannot redeem it because I might endanger my own estate."
Yeah, for some reason. It doesn't exactly say.
Yeah.
Yeah. Next in line is Boaz to redeem Ruth as his wife, and to be her guardian redeemer, essentially. But I don't think it's any question that they have an affection for each other, because up until this point, I mean, if we just learned about this, it just seemed like maybe a process that needed to take place, or like an order of operations that was supposed to happen in the families. But because Ruth, again, is a Moabitess, she's not even from this land, she just happened upon Boaz's field, and then he takes this affection with her.
So sweet.
Because of her reputation in the land and because of her relationship with Naomi. I mean, he can't not be taken by her. And then he's thankful that she's considering him to be her guardian redeemer in spite of his age.
Yeah.
But he calls some elders and the people of the town together to do this exchange with the other guardian redeemer. And then once it lands on him, then obviously there are witnesses. And in verse 11, it then confirms, "All the people who are at the gate and the elders said, 'We are witnesses. The Lord make the woman who is coming to your house like Rachel and Leah, the two who built the house of Israel, and may you prosper in Ephrathah and be famous in Bethlehem.'" So not only is this wonderful relationship resulting in a marriage, but then Boaz makes it a point that there are witnesses immediately, and then everyone's in support of this, which is kind of unlike, you know what I mean? It's earlier in the Bible you hear about how marriages aren't really supposed to be accepted between Israelites and foreigners. And the fact that this is happening and it's accepted by, the town, and it basically has the Lord's blessing all over it, is a really beautiful thing. And then at the end of chapter 4, the author wraps it up with a quick, family tree of how we get to the lineage of David.
So, not to be a broken record, but again in this chapter we see the big theme that is God's hand and God's provision, because this is how it was meant to be, and it's part of the reason why we have this book, is that it shows how we get to the lineage of King David and how Ruth is a part of that. And I love that this book really just wraps up the whole story, and this whole book shows the simplicity of a life lived for God. Not that it's easy, not that their life was easy, because they had lots of hardships, but at the same time, one thing just kind of fell into place after another, and it was very simple. At each step, they knew what they were to do, and they did it. They saw what God was giving them and where he was leading them, and they stepped forward, and then God made the next step apparent, and they stepped forward. Not that every day is easy, not that things
Yeah.
are not hard, but that there's a certain kind of simplicity
It is
when you're
simple.
doing what God has made you to do,
Yeah.
and you're just following him one step at a time.
Yeah.
And then you get this beautiful story that all
Right.
just fell into place.
Yeah. Yeah, I like the simplicity of it too. And again, it's a story that at first glance is sort of ordinary. But when you get into the fact that then these are two different worlds kind of colliding to then continue the lineage of Jesus, it's a miraculous thing. And it helps us understand the truth of God's promise. Says, you know, in this case, this is just one small example in the Old Testament that Jesus is woven through the entire Old Testament. And I think Ruth is a great example of that.
I agree.
Yeah.
It's just a beautiful story when it comes down to it.
Yeah.
And it's just one little piece of the entire beautiful story of the Bible and salvation and
You know what? Maybe this isn't the end of Ruth. Depending on our comments and
Yeah.
how viewers respond to this book, you know, maybe we'll end up doing like a follow-up video or something like that. We are so eager to hear how God has spoken to you during our study of Ruth. And again, if you think we missed something, or if you have any questions, or if you think we, you know, confused things, or if you love something, we obviously want to hear all the positive too.
Yeah.
we're just like
We just want to hear all the
we're-
things.
We're so open to the other stuff as well that that we keep mentioning it. But we are so happy that you spent this time with us, and we hope that you continue in the Word with us
Yeah.
on Higher Deeper.
We'll see you soon.